Hey, what's up everyone? This is Kura here from Australia, and this is going to be the first video in a series of videos that's going to show you how I take an app from nothing to actually having it deployed onto an app store, whether that's Apple App Store or Android with the Play Store. Okay, and we're going to use the case study of an app that I'm building as part of a competition, the Shipperton competition by Revenue Cat, and this app is ZeroMiss, where I'm building this app so that I don't miss any calendar invites anymore, and I don't miss any type of alarms for medication or anything like that while I'm in recovery for my foot surgery. Okay, so this video I'm going to be looking at setting up my environment, and one of the first things that I use for my environment, of course you need a name for your app, right? But once you got the name, you can always change it later if you don't like it anymore. You need to go and find a place to be able to store your code. And for me, where I store my code is GitHub. This is my go-to platform to be able to keep my code. When you build an app, you need to be writing code, and that code needs to live somewhere. You don't want to just leave it on your computer. If your computer dies tomorrow, for example, you're going to lose all your work. Hence why I'm putting it on another platform called GitHub. And let's go and create a repository together. A repository is the place where in GitHub you actually store your code, okay? So let's go and create one. So here I'm in GitHub. So to go into GitHub, you just type into your URL github.com, okay? And you get into github.com and you would have a button somewhere called new here, which is creating a new repository where you're going to be storing your code. And so if I click on that here, I'm going to call this app ZeroMiss. So I want to call the repository ZeroMiss as well. And I'm going to make it private. Here you got private and public. Public, that means everybody on the internet can see your code. Sometimes you may want to do that. Sometimes you may not want to do that. And in this case, I do not want to do that, okay? So I'm going to make it private. And then you can start with a template. Don't worry about too much about that. Don't worry about the README, git ignore, license, and whatnot. This is a private repo. And here you can put a description to remind yourself of what is this repo for. This will contain code for our alarm mystery app, because it's not released yet. And I'm going to click on create repository. Okay, now very simple. Here it's going to give you some things you can read through. By the way, if anytime throughout the video there's something that you don't understand, that you want me to dive deeper into it, just put it into the comments so that I can get to it, and in the future I'll create a video regarding that so that you can get the information that you need to be able to get started on your app. Okay, so now the other thing that you're going to need is when you want to be able to have an app deployed somewhere, you're going to need an account. And we're going to start with Apple. I'm not going to be working on the Android version for now. I'm going to start with Apple. First, you need to go and create a Apple account for yourself. So that's really simple. You go to Apple ID website and you create an account, just like you create an account anyway. Okay, I'm not going to show you how to do that because I know you're a lot smarter than not knowing how to do that. Okay, and I'm expecting you to be at the age where you've already used the internet a while. If you haven't, then let me know, but this is probably not the video for you, okay? Now, going in here, if I go into my account, I created an account already. You want to go on to developer.apple.com. And this is where you're going to be able to sign up for the Apple Developer Program. You need to sign up to be able to build app for Apple that you're going to put into the store, okay? So you need to go on there. I think it's 99 USD for a year for the subscription, and I'm in Australia. For me it's $149, okay? So now if I click on apps, I will then be able to see the various apps that I got. Here you can see I only got one app, which is Cookiesy. Let's not worry too much about that. This is an old app that I created in the past. We're going to create a new app. Now, for you to create a new app, you first need to create an identifier for the app. This is something that's going to allow Apple to identify the uniqueness of your app so that there's no conflicts with other people's app, potentially the name, etc., etc. So if I go into an identifier, by the way, your users don't see that, okay? They won't see this identifier, okay? This is really for Apple in the background and for yourself as well to be able to refer to this app uniquely. So here I'm going to create an app ID. Don't worry about the other ones. I'm not going to be talking about them anyway. Right now we want to register an app. So you want to select app ID, continue here, and I want to create an app, not an app clip. Again, we're not going to be talking about app clip right now. If you want to talk about that, we can do that in a future video. Just comment below. Continue on that. And in here, you'll see it can take a little bit of time to load. You'll see a description. So here I'm just going to say smart alarm app. And here you can have a bundle ID. The bundle ID is the ID that you want to put in there. Okay. So here it's quite smart to actually use it with the domain, your domain name. So if you got a website called mywebsite.com, you want to start with com dot the website name, etc., etc. For me, I'm going to use au.com.cultivex, dot the name of the app, so ZeroMiss, and that's what I'm going to use. Okay, so doing that, so continue here, and I'm going to say register. You can change those capabilities, so don't you worry about that. And here you can see I've got a new identifier for my smart alarm app here, au.com.cultivex.ZeroMiss. This is really important for you to be able to then go back into developer, go into your account, and now we can actually go and create an app. Okay, and you can go new app, and it's just for iOS. I'm not going to be building right now, and this app is going to be called ZeroMiss. Primary language is going to be English, Australia, and then the bundle here. See, this is why this is important to have. You can select your bundle here, but I'm just going to use the same as the ZeroMiss. And user access, it's whoever has access into your account, right? I'm just going to put full access. Create that. When I say your account, I'm talking about your Apple Developer Program account. Okay. So here we go. We got the app created, and now this is really just a skeleton of the app in Apple for you to now start building it locally on your machine. The framework we're going to be using to be able to build the app is called React Native. Now, before React Native, to build an app, you needed to use the language that Apple provided you called Swift. Now, people still build with Swift, and there's a little bit more power than you have with the React Native framework. But if you wanted to build on both platforms, iOS and Android as well, then you needed to learn two languages, because it's not the same language that you use for Google phones and for Apple phones. Okay. Now with React Native, you get to use one language, which is actually the language of the web, called JavaScript, that you can actually use to build your applications on both Apple and Android. And the big promise of it is that you write once and it works on both. The reality is sometimes there's some quirks that's not going to work on Apple or not going to work on Android. You need to work around that. But the most of it is you write it once and it works on both. So that's just a framework we're going to be using, because I love JavaScript. And in fact, we're not going to be using JavaScript. We're going to be using TypeScript, which is a superset language on top of JavaScript, if you'd like, by Microsoft, which is really, really cool. It gives you types and whatnot. I'm not going to get into the technical details here, but that's what we're going to be doing. Okay, so let's jump into the React Native website so that I can show you how you can install it on your machine. If you want to go to reactnative.dev and get started, and you just follow through on how to create it. You can use something called Expo, which is what most people use to be able to create apps, or you can use React Native without a framework. Okay, there's some limitation with Expo, although today 2025 there's not that many limitations. There's just a few, but it's just I'm used to build apps using React Native without a framework and not with Expo, hence why I'm going to use React Native without a framework. Maybe we can do a video in the future on actually using Expo instead. Okay, but for today we're going to use React Native without a framework. If you just click on that, you got get started without a framework, and here you got a command line that you run, which is this, to be able to create your app. So let's just do that right now together. So here I'm in my console. So this is my terminal on macOS. Again, if you want a video on that, let me know. And here what I can do is I can run this command and init, and then I'll specify the name of my app. So here I'm going to put ZeroMiss, and that's going to run for a while. So I'm going to accelerate the video right here. Do I want to install Cocoa Pods now? Yes, I do want to install it. This is actually used by React Native to be able to install any kind of capabilities, extra capabilities that you need, for example, GPS location and whatnot. Okay, and here we go. It's ready. So if we jump into that folder, CD for change directory, into my ZeroMiss folder, here you're able to see, let me make that a bit bigger, see all the files that it actually created. And what I can do now is I can run npm run iOS. Yes, please. And if we go back to that quickly, you can see now it's going to be building the app. The other way you can go about that, by the way, is if you go into Xcode, you need to install Xcode, by the way, right, to be able to build apps for Apple. Okay, you have to use an Apple device. You can't do that on Windows, by the way. You can only do from an Apple device, and you need to have Xcode installed, which is essentially the platform for building code and building apps, etc. on Apple. Okay, so it's different for Android, but for Apple you do need to have Mac with Xcode on it. Now if I go and actually open, this is my other project, let's not worry about that, but if I go and open this new one that we just created, so if we go into ZeroMiss and you go to iOS, and what you want to open here, you want to open the workspace. Okay, do not open the code proj, it's not gonna work. Open the workspace. Open the workspace, here we go, we're in the app, and I want to run this app actually on a simulator. So you can install an iOS simulator, and I'll show you what it looks like. If I click on that right here, and then I'll click on this little play button here. Play button is actually going to be building the app itself. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit of time, so we're going to accelerate the video once again. While this is building, by the way, this little terminal here that got started is actually running what is called a server. It's running something on your machine so that the app can actually use that to be able to what is called hot reload, so that you'll see in a minute we'll have this simulator running with the skeleton default app that React Native creates, right? So there's going to be nothing really there except the React Native default thing. I'll show you in a minute when it's done building, but you'll see that I'll be able to change some code and automatically see changes straight away in the simulator without me having to keep on rebuilding every time. Okay, so that's the power of React Native, is to be able to make changes and seeing those changes in real time straight away inside your simulator, but also to be able to write code once and have it on 2 different platforms. Now, in reality, there are times that Android has different way of doing things compared to Apple. Okay, so you are going to run into some issues from time to time in more complex apps where what you have on iOS doesn't work on Android. Doesn't happen a lot, but when it happens, I'm telling you, it can be very frustrating. Okay, so just be ready. I would recommend, if it's your first time building an app, just choose one platform, whether that's Android. If you're on Windows, obviously choose Android because you won't be able to build for Apple. If you're Apple, choose Apple or Android, whichever. Also, the Android subscription, the developer program subscription, is I believe only $25 as well, so a lot cheaper than Apple. Okay, so you may want to go with that for your very first app so that you get into the move of it. Okay, so as you can see here, it's done building. Now the app, the simulator is starting up. So here I've chosen iPhone 16. You got a lot of choices that you can choose from as well. It's up to you what you want to choose from. And here you can see it's gonna start up ZeroMiss. Here we go, ZeroMiss is being started. Just give it a few and it will show up something in a minute. Don't you worry, when you actually deploy and build the app and deploy it, it's not that slow, okay? It's a lot faster than that. So here's the app, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna be adding something in here somewhere, okay? Maybe at the very top here, I'm gonna add, this is ZeroMiss, okay? So if I go and edit this app here, what I can do is I can add a text component and say this is our awesome app, over here. And I need to, this is not where I code, by the way, this is really just for the example here. If I save that, see I'm not rebuilding anything, and you can see this is our awesome app showing up here. Now, there's a lot of issues with the way it's showing, and right at the moment, this is not the intention of this video. We'll look into that in a different video, okay? So this is it, we got the app running. Now, we're not over yet. Now, all this code that we just created here, we need to put that into what? Remember, into our repository. The way we do that, we just need to add a remote. So remote is essentially, where do I want to save this repo? So if I go and add this in here, then I'll be able to push my changes, my local changes, over into the remote. So if I do that, here we go. Now if I go back to GitHub and refresh this, here we go. This is all the code that I had locally and how to use it coming directly from React Native when we did the init command just before. And this is the app. And this is it for this video. Thank you for watching. Click on the follow button if you want to see what's next in me building this app. But really, we want to take the steps to be able to get it onto the App Store as soon as possible so that we can get that done before the end of the Shipperton competition, which ends at the end of the month, which is just 28 days away from now. So we don't have a lot of time, okay? So next video is going to be about how I go about designing the app. So watch the next video so that you can go and start designing your own app as well and getting them ready for prime time. Let's do it.